Hey everyone, and welcome to Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and over to my left, Mr. Chris King. Chris, how are you, buddy?
Not too bad,
Fun
Jim.
time.
Yourself?
Not bad, not bad. Good times for all last night. Had a good night in the NBA and on the ice, and baseball was fun as well.
And don't forget the Tampa Bay Bandits did cover the line last night.
Yeah, they did 17-3. I did actually watch the first half of that game just to get. I just wanted to see. I hadn't really watched more than a couple of minutes of USFL football, so I just wanted to see what it was like. And to be honest, it was fun.
The weird thing for Pittsburgh is they only activated 3 receivers, so they were going to have 37 offensive linemen on the field and still couldn't run the ball.
Yep.
And their first 7 runs, I think they totaled 6 yards or something like that.
I will say I forget who the color analyst was on last night's show, but hey Sly, how you doing, buddy? He said that that the Bandits had spent so much time in the backfield of Pittsburgh that they could charge rent, which I thought was a pretty good line. So there's that going on. Quick, you know what, guys? Real quick, so you know, for your TV watching, the NBA tonight, there's 3 games. All 3 are on TV nationally. NBA on TNT, it's the Heat and Phoenix, and I'm sorry, the Heat and Hawks, and Phoenix and NOLA on TNT. Minnesota and Memphis is on NBA TV, and TBS has the Dodgers and Braves. So that's where you can go to watch your TV tonight, and that's where everybody's going to be. It's Hawks, Heat, and Phoenix and NOLA on TNT. Minnesota and Memphis on NBA TV, and TBS has the Dodgers and the Braves. So Chris just left. He'll be back. Meanwhile, what we're going to do is talk about let's talk a little bit about our friends at DraftKings. Okay, now DraftKings has a really good promotion coming up, and for max wagers, folks. And here's how it works. Okay, it's fun, it's easy to do, and it's the kind of stuff that that we always look for here at Max Wagers, and it's the opportunity to basically win some money by betting on baseball. Okay, so here we go. Here's the deal, and that is bet $5 to win $200 in free bets. Make your first deposit of $5 and bet on any Major League Baseball money line, and you can win $200 in free bets. Okay, so again, that's bet $5 to win $200 in free bets. Make your first deposit, bet $5 or more on any Major League Baseball money line to win $200 in free bets. Okay, now what you have to do is you have to use our promo code, which is WAW, which of course Winners and Winers video. Get all the information in the show box below. As always, please bet responsibly, and of course, most importantly, you must be 21 years of age to participate. All right, cool. Waiting for Chris to come back. Sly, how's it going with you? Everybody out there are having a good time today, and we're all just having an opportunity here to check things out. Hey, Matthew, how's it going? Let's go Grizz. That's right, the Grizz play tonight. And, when Chris comes back, as I'm sure he will in just a second, here he is. It's going well. Sly, how are you, buddy? Good to see you and Matthew in the house. Here's Chris in the house, too. Welcome back, Chris.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have a couple of 5-week-old kittens in here, and they ran and tripped over the surge protector and reset it.
Okay, well, it's good to have a surge protector and kittens who take care of them. Okay, so we're going to go to the Major League Baseball. Sly and Matthew's in the house already. Brewers and the Pirates. Now, this is not deja vu, folks. We're back here again. And why are we back here again? Because fading the Pirates seems to be a full-time job here at Just Parlays.
Well, I mean, they didn't do anything to write home about yesterday, and as they were beaten 6-1.
Right.
Granted, everybody's trying to, because Christian Yelich had one good at bat, they're trying to talk about how he should be comeback player of the year. Just because you hit a grand slam against the Pirates doesn't really move the needle that much. But I mean, we're looking at the fact that, Milwaukee did get the win yesterday. I'm sure Lex will be very disappointed since he talks about the Pirates, winning the first 5 innings and the entire game, only to see that not paying out. Pittsburgh had 8 hits yesterday. They went 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And they're probably not going to get those kind of opportunities today against Corbin Burns. The reigning NL Cy Young winner, of course, a major factor in the Brewers' rotation. Meanwhile, JT Brubaker, who's walked as many guys as he's struck out so far this season with 7 walks and 7 whiffs and 7 1/3. That's over 2 starts. You look at that ERA, it's over 9. You look at that whip at over 2. Those numbers aren't going to bode well when you're a team that doesn't necessarily set the world on fire offensively, especially on the road. You look at Pittsburgh, they're averaging 4.1 runs a game overall this season, but that drops to just 3 a night on the road this season. Milwaukee struggled at the plate in the early going. We talked about that yesterday. But, hey, they did put 6 on the board in back-to-back games now, so they've got that going for them. They took advantage of the fact that they drew 5 walks in the contest. Also took advantage of a wild pitch because they only had 6 hits. But 3 of those went for extra bases. And, getting those kind of benefits are something that you can't overlook in a game like this. And Brubaker will give you the opportunity to get free base runners. We saw it against Washington in his last start. He walked 3 in the first in a game where Pittsburgh was down 3-0 before they even came up to bat. They didn't come back to beat the Nationals that day, but still, you can't put yourself in a hole like that on a regular basis if you want to have any kind of success. Milwaukee's 6-1 in their last 7 at home against a right-handed starter. They're 5-1 in their last 6 as a home favorite. 5-1 in their last 6 against a right-handed starter. Period. The Pirates 15-46 in their last 61 on the road. They're 35-91 in their last 126 meetings in Milwaukee, and the Pirates are 1-6 in their last 7 against a starter with a WHIP less than 1.15. Unknown. What's wrong with the Brewers? They forgot how to hit. I think they left their bats in spring training. You look at the numbers for the Brewers this season. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. As a team, they're hitting a whopping 213. And, that's not really going to move the needle that much. You look at some of the key guys in that lineup, Colton Wong's at 205. Willie Adams is at 200. Lorenzo Cain's hitting 190. Hunter Renfroe's hitting 189, and he strikes out 1 out of every 3 at bats. Yelich, he had 2 hits yesterday that got him all the way up to 242. That grand slam, he drove in more runs yesterday than he had all season long coming in because he only had 2 runs batted in coming into the contest. You've got McCutchen. He's hitting 262, but he's not necessarily starting all the time, or they're shuffling him around as a DH and things like that. But a lot of these guys, they're not hitting, and that's going to be an issue. Now, of course, as the weather gets better, maybe that'll turn around. But the Brewers can't sit around and rely just on pitching in the early going if they want to hang or build a lead in the NL Central, because their pitching hasn't been all that great yet either. You look at Woodruff has struggled. Peralta has struggled in the rotation. Burns and Lauer and Hauser have pitched well, but, you haven't really gotten to Josh Hader that much. He's only pitched in 4 games so far this year. Devin Williams has been roughed up a bit. He's had control issues, walking 6 in 3 innings of work, plus giving up 5 hits. Will the Brewers figure it out? I'm sure they will, but when you're 13th in the National League in runs scored, and we're now coming in on almost 2 weeks into the season, that's got to be cause for concern for Craig Counsell and company. Wouldn't you say, Jim?
Yeah, I think that when you were talking about yesterday, we were talking about Christian Yelich was just hitting a little above 200.
Right.
So yeah, he had a great game yesterday. So what? He got up to 240.
Yeah, 242.
So there's still a long way to go before the Brewers. And the Brewers have been scoring runs. I mean, it's not like they're you know abusing the baseball. I mean, they're playing small ball, which is not overwhelmingly the normal Brewers way. I mean, they usually can bang the ball out of the park, but I think, like you said, they came out of spring training, a bit anemic, and they haven't really got back to it yet. So just because they had one good day against the Pirates, I wouldn't exactly, you know, uh, hang the season on that one.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of older guys too. If you look, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Cade's
That's right.
36, McCutcheon is 35, even Wong is 31. Jace Peterson is 32. He's hitting 095. Yelich is 30, and we've talked about the issues he's had the last couple of years. Omar Narvaez is 30. So, I mean, we're not talking about a bunch of 22, 23, 24-year-olds in this lineup. And, that weather is going to take a toll, especially when it's 35, 40 degrees. We talked about that yesterday with the Rays going to the Windy City to face the Cubs, where, they had snow. It's tough to hit in that kind of weather. But, the problem is, it's not like you're the only team doing it. You're playing another team that's got to play in those same conditions. So you can't just go around and say, well, it's not our fault that we can't hit. No, it is, because if you get beat by somebody that's playing in the same conditions as you, obviously, somebody can hit the ball.
Yeah, I mean, basically, a lot of baseball players will tell you when it's cold weather, and you literally swing the bat and hit the ball, it feels like you're, put your hand in a hornet's nest. I mean, it's because it just stings like all get out. But um, it's been a time honored tradition that pitching has always been ahead of hitting early in the season, and then things tend to average out. But I don't know if the Brewers are the old Harvey Wallbangers of the days of old, but they definitely need they definitely are capable of hitting better than they are doing so far. So there's that.
Yeah, it's
So,
definitely been a disappointing campaign if you're a
mhm.
fan of the Brewers at the plate.
And Matthew, just for the heck of it, buddy, we're going to be getting to that game in not too distant future, and I'm glad you get to go. Matthew's going to go see the folks at and go see the Grizz play tonight. So good for you, buddy.
Spoiler alert: I didn't put that game up on the board, but I was backing Memphis. I was just a little I was a little leery with the way they didn't play defense the other day, so I didn't put that one in as one of the top options. But I think Memphis should bounce back. John Morant putting up video clips of Jordan after the game one loss. You can't put up clips like that and then turn around and lose again. So you have to think that Memphis, they got punched in the mouth a bit in that one. You have to think they'll bounce back at home here, because you don't want to go to the Target Center in a 2-0 hole when you're the higher seed by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But hopefully you have a good time. Hopefully the beer won't be $16 like at the Gila River Arena. And hopefully, for your sake, Matthew, Memphis will come out with a win.
You never know. Here's the game on TBS tonight, Dodgers and the Braves. And how about it? Last night, Freddie Freeman, first time up against his old team, and he puts one in the seats.
Yeah, and this continues basically the Atlanta hangover. They won the World Series last year. They've struggled out of the gates. They're 5-7.
They lost 2 out of 3 to the Nationals.
Yep, they're hitting a collective 233 on the year, so they're not hitting all that well either. Their pitching staff hasn't been great. They've got a WHIP of 1.28 as a staff. I mean, Atlanta's riding power because they've got 15 homers, but the problem is if you're hitting homers and nobody's on base, you're not really denting anybody on the mound in that regard. Now, I know everybody's talking about, Ronald Acuna is down in AAA on a rehab assignment. They hope he's going to come back in the first week of May. Guess what? That doesn't help you right now. That's still 2.5 weeks away from now.
Well, that second line you have there, Max Fried at 0-2 with a 5.73 ERA, that tells you right there all you need to know so far about the Braves, because Max Fried is their, basically their ace.
Right, and he's been cuffed around. He's given up 15
Yeah.
hits in 11 innings.
Right.
Everybody will point to the fact that he's only walked one guy, but guess what? Guys don't have to draw a walk to hurt you if they're tagging you around the park like they have this season. I mean,
They're pounding.
he hasn't given up a homer yet, so I mean, let's give him credit for that. But the fact remains, 15 hits in 11 innings isn't going to get it done. Opposing teams have a 326 average against him so far in his 2 starts. Granted, it's a small sample size, but just remember this. In his small sample size before, when he was coming up in 2018, when he pitched 33 and 2/3 innings, opposing hitters had a 224 mark against him. In the COVID-shortened 2020 season, in 56 innings, opposing hitters batted 211. And last year, when he threw 165 and 2/3 innings during the regular season, opposing hitters batted 227. So you're talking so far, it's a 100-point higher clip than what we saw last year. Now, sure, he's going to bounce back and get that into things, but his line drive percentage is up to 28.9%, and his ground ball percentage has dropped from 51 to 44.7. That means these guys are making some good contact against him, and that's going to be troublesome as the year goes on, especially if he can't right that ship. On the flip side, you're facing Walker Buehler. We know what Buehler can do on the mound. We saw it last year. We've seen it the way things have gone here. Buehler's 1-0. He's walked 5, struck out 9 over 10 and 2/3. But the Dodgers, they've won 5 in a row at home. They're averaging 6.6 runs a game there. Atlanta is just averaging 3.2 runs a game on the road this season. The Dodgers 44-12 in their last 56 as a home favorite. 44-12 in their last 56 against starters with a WHIP greater than 1.30. And look at that, they're 44-12 in their last 56 at home. So apparently 44-12 are numbers you should be playing in the lotto today if you're backing the Dodgers, because obviously they're popping up all over the place. Meanwhile, the Braves just 2-5 in their last 7 on the road against right-handed starters, 1-4 overall in their last 5 against right-handed starters. And we're not talking about a bunch of guys on the mound that were setting the world on fire.
To begin with.
Yeah, because if you look at some of these guys that have pitched against Atlanta in the early going this season, let me just take a look here and see who they faced. Because we're not talking about a murderer's row of pitchers by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, we've seen them face Vladimir Gutierrez and Hunter Green of the Reds. We saw them get lit up by Josh Rogers of the Nationals, who was a throw-in starter because somebody else was who's going to start that day? I'm trying to remember.
Who was supposed to start?
Yeah, back on April 11th, it was supposed to be somebody else, and then they went on the injury. Oh, it was Sanchez.
Yeah, it was Anibal Sanchez.
Yeah. Then they faced Corbin. They faced Josiah Gray, who's pitching today.
Josiah Gray's a good pitcher.
True, but I mean, he's still young.
Oh, yeah, 22 years old.
They faced Joe Musgrove. They faced Mackenzie Gore, the hotshot prospect for the Padres. Then they faced Nick Martinez, who's back from Japan. He wasn't very good when he pitched for the Rangers before he went to Japan, so now apparently people think he's going to be serviceable because he put in some good numbers over there in the NPB. Then they faced Darvish and were handcuffed by him, and we just saw Darvish get lit up by the Giants in his previous start. And then they faced Kershaw yesterday and proceeded to do pretty much nothing in the first 5 innings against him. They got 3 in the 6th when Kershaw tired, but after that, they were blanked by the bullpen. And now you're going to face Buehler, and that's not going to bode well for Atlanta either.
Yeah. And then just talking about the Dodgers there for a second. So I mean, part of it, like you say,
Yeah,
is
you're right. The line did switch. I forgot to update that this morning. When I put it up last night, they still had it at minus 230. And when I went through this morning, I missed the line at the top. It's supposed to be minus 155.
okay. Well,
In fact, I've got it on my screen. It's 155, and the money line is plus 140, or the run line, I should say.
so okay. So the Braves and the Dodgers. It looks like it'll be another win in Chavez Ravine for the home team, and
Yeah, they'll be 6-0 then at home.
yeah,
Good
and
start to the year for them.
yeah, they actually scored some runs before the eighth inning last night.
Yeah,
So,
they had what we said. They scored 18 in the eighth going into yesterday and 16
right.
in the fourth, and they put up 5 in the fourth.
There you go. Those are the two numbers you got to remember. It's not a bad situation. Nice town, Matthew's from Austin Riley, Ricky Spinhouse. So, some definitely quality talent there, Matthew. Quality talent. I hope you enjoy the Memphis game. We already talked about it. We hope they hope you get to see a win tonight. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Steen likes to call him Ricky Spinhouse instead of Ricky Stenhouse when we do the NASCAR show because he inevitably finds a way to wipe out and create havoc. Of course, for those of you that missed the NASCAR show last week, we've all had to listen to Reichel talk about how he picked Kyle Busch to win the race. But let's face it, Kyle Busch shouldn't have won that race last week on the dirt track in Bristol. He was helped by Chase Briscoe wiping out Tyler Reddick, among others. So if you see Reichel, just tell him that even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right. Well, all right. We'll leave it. That it was fun to watch the race the other day. The NASCAR race at Bristol with the mud, but it's not so much.
The rain didn't help with that either.
Say the rain made it like they were running on ice for the last few times, and one of the things about NASCAR is when you start getting toward the end of the race and there's one caution flag, you're going to see a lot of caution flags.
True.
Because everybody starts to get a little antsy and they take chances and bing, bang, and boom, there you go. You're doomed. All right, let's go to the NHL where tonight there's a couple of interesting games starting off with the Wild and the Canadiens.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting for the Wild, not so much for the Canadiens.
Well, I think it's interesting for the Canadiens because they'll see Carey Price for the second straight game.
Right.
I still think it's rather pointless having a guy that hadn't played all season come back for these meaningless games. I get the fact that, like you said, they might want to get him up to speed and what have you, but let's face it, the guy's going to be 35 by the time next season starts. You still owe him a crap load of money that nobody's going to want to take on. Nobody wants to pay him $10.5 million for the next, I want to say it's, what did I say, 2026, 27?
Yeah.
Yeah, so nobody's going to want to pay that kind of money regardless of what he does down here down the stretch. He's clearly not the same guy that he was earlier in his career when he won the Hart Trophy and the Jennings and the Pearson and the Vezina all in one season back in 2014-15. And,
but
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I sent you an article the other day from The Athletic about the fact that Canadiens fans were lining up in droves just to either see him or get his autograph when they filled up the building in Montreal just to see Carey Price play. So
well, that's because they had to have something to be excited about. But let's face it, they're still not a good hockey team, and whether he comes back and plays next year and is their number one goaltender or not, they're still not going to be a good hockey team.
No.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that's got a $10.5 million cap hit. It's the highest goaltending contract in the league. Mm-hmm. You're going to pay him that until he's 38.
Right.
And he's not Marc-Andre Fleury at this point.
No. Even Marc-Andre Fleury is not Marc-Andre Fleury at this point.
Right, but I mean, he's basically playing like a former Montreal goaltender that we talked about, that Bruce Boudreau should never start again, in Yaroslav Halak.
Halak had one very, very, very hot, run, and I witnessed it because it was instant caps, and nobody could score against Halak in that particular series. But that was, we get on guys like Brandon Holtby, right? But the Capitals won a cup with Brandon Holtby.
Right.
And, they got in the playoffs with Semyon Varlamov. And, some of these guys, when they go other places, life is not as good. So we'll say. Ninja on the Tampa Bay Rays, minus 115. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'd be biased in that one because obviously I'm a Chicago fan. I took Chicago yesterday because we talked about how Tampa Bay has struggled in the weather, and they struggled yesterday as well. I mean, they finished with, 2 runs? I think they had a half dozen hits or so.
I think it's 3-2, yeah. Or 4-2.
Yeah, 4-2 because Schwindel hit a homer in the 8th.
Right.
But, I mean, Tampa Bay's offense has not looked all that great so far. It looks like they're starting Matt Whistler tonight, who Cubs fans are familiar with because he pitched out of the bullpen for us a couple years ago. So, I don't know. Is he going to be an opener type situation? What's Kevin Cash going to do there?
Yeah, I think so because last night they wasted a good pitching outing.
McClanahan pitched well. I'll give him that.
McClanahan. I mean, he pitched well. But, this is an opener game today for the Nationals. So,
I mean, who's going to be the bulk inning guy?
I don't know.
Because I see Yarbrough still on the IL.
Right. It may not be a bulk inning. It may be, maybe
one inning at a time.
Yeah, 1 inning at a time or a couple innings. So, what's your top 3 picks of today in all sports? The spread. V. Russell, we'll get to that in a little while, okay, buddy? We will get to that in a little while. Let's finish up on Minnesota and Montreal as we move on. Hey, V, you're on Facebook. Which Facebook page you watching us from? Just out of curiosity. If you'd fill that in, that'd be great. So we'll get to you. Don't worry.
But like Jim was saying, Montreal's 3-12 in their last 15 against teams with winning percentage above 600. They're 1-7 in their last 8 after a home loss of at least 3 goals. They lost 8-4 to Washington over the weekend. They're 0-4 in their last 4 on 2 days of rest. And Minnesota has owned this series of late. They've won 11 of the last 12 meetings between these teams. The Wild still with something to fight for down the stretch because they're trying to battle with St. Louis for home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs in the Central Division. The Blues have 102 points. The Wild have 101. They've got 1 game in hand. They won't use it up tonight because both teams will be in action tonight. The Blues host, I believe it's Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they host the Bruins. So a lot at stake for Minnesota. They can't overlook picking up 2 points against a deadbeat team like Montreal that's been out of the playoff race since before Thanksgiving. And the way Minnesota's played against Montreal in recent years, you have to give them the upper hand here, even with Cam Talbot in net over the aforementioned Marc-Andre Fleury.
Right. And Marc-Andre Fleury is going to start, for them. So,
yeah, I think he should be getting more games than Talbot at this point. I mean, it seems like Kakinen was getting more starts than Fleury has before they traded him to San Jose.
Right. So, I think the key here is just for them. I mean, as you say, there's urgency for the Wild standpoint because they just can't afford to lose. They have to get they got to get moving into playoff mode. And right now, they're not there yet.
And you talk about a critical loss when you're talking about stuff they have in the AHL yesterday. Look no further than the Vegas Golden Knights, who choked away a prime opportunity to put some distance between themselves and other teams but instead they gagged and lost 3-2 to New Jersey at home. Now all of a sudden you've got a Vancouver team that's won 6 straight, just 1 point behind Vegas in the Pacific Division.
I
They're
guess
only
Allie
4
must
points.
have watched some of that game last night.
Must be, and they're only 4 points behind the Kings, who hold the final guaranteed spot in that division. They're 5 back of Nashville and Dallas, who own the 2 wildcard spots. So look out for Vancouver. Vegas blew a chance last night. You have to wonder, and this is an interesting stat that I saw run today. If you look at things, Jack Eichel, who was the number 1 overall pick in 2015, has been in a grand total of 0 playoff games in his career. Meanwhile, you look at a bunch of guys that were drafted way later in that, like Anthony Bouvier of the Islanders has played in like 48 playoff games, and all these other guys. But, Eichel was supposed to be the savior. He wasn't in Buffalo. I know everybody was excited when Vegas picked him up, but, he's been less than stellar, I would say, in Vegas.
That's fair. It's fair.
And at this point, they might not make the playoffs again.
Anything's possible. Speaking of playoffs, there's one team that's definitely going to be there. The Panthers.
Yes, unfortunately for all of us.
Yeah. And they are taking on an Islanders team that isn't going to be in the playoffs. So, Barry Trotz.
Yeah, Trotz and the Islanders were eliminated after losing Sunday's game to the Leafs at Scotiabank Arena. Now they get to come home and face Florida. On the plus side, at least this game's not in Sunrise because we know how dangerous the Panthers are on home ice. In this case, they have to go to the UBS Arena where nobody seems to score. It seems like it's a black hole offensively. If you look at the numbers this season in home games for the Islanders, the average total 5.19 goals a game. The Islanders average 2.86. They give up 2.33 at home. The Panthers, they average 4.19 on the season, which leads the league. On the road, they drop down to 3.65. So they're a little bit stifled offensively at home or on the road. I'm not sure why there's such a wide disparity because at home they average 4.71 goals a game, which is why Florida's banking on that home ice advantage for as long as they can keep it in the Eastern Conference playoffs at least. Obviously, they'll have their hands full should they end up with Colorado or something if they make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. But you're looking at Sergei Bobrovsky, 36-6-3 at 266 goals against, a 912 save percentage, and 3 shutouts between the pipes for the Panthers. Ilya Sorokin, 25-16-7 with a 231 goals against, a 927 save percentage, and 7 shutouts. You have to wonder what Sorokin's record would look like if he played on a team that could actually score. Because you look, he's got 23 losses despite a goals against that's substantially better than Bobrovsky. A save percentage is better than Bobrovsky. And he's got more shutouts than pretty much anyone in the league not named Jacob Markstrom. So, I mean, think about that if he was playing on a team that could score. He'd probably be in consideration for the Vezina like Shesterkin is, or Darcy Kemper, or, even Bob with his middle-of-the-road numbers. The Islanders just 25th in goals for at 2.75. They're 6th in goals against at 2.72. Florida 43-9 in their last 52 against teams with a losing record. They're 9-2 in their last 11 against the Metropolitan Division. They're 17-5 in their last 22 on the road. New York just 4-13 in their last 17 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. 6-22 in their last 28 as an underdog, and 2-10 in their last 12 as a home underdog.
Which ain't nothing to write home about.
No, it's not. That's probably the main reason why the Islanders will be home for the golf course this year instead of going to the postseason.
Well, funny thing about the Islanders, we were talking about, how defense in Barry Trotz is important. Offense is very important too, because if you don't score, you can't win. But
I've heard
ironically,
that.
Trot, yeah, I'm not the best color man in the business for nothing. To coin a phrase, to steal a phrase from you, the
That broadcasting school really paid off.
that's right. Getting their money's worth. Trot's in a totally non sequitur. Trotz and Kenny Albert were roommates for a year on the road when Kenny was doing his first job broadcasting the Baltimore Skipjacks, a team which was coached by Barry Trotz. So they were roomies on the road.
Good old Baltimore Skipjacks.
There you go. Quick question from Michael. Big spread on Tampa Bay and Toronto tonight.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Tampa Bay is going off, and last I saw, and this is when I updated the slides earlier, they were going at -5 something, 530. Yeah, 530. I know because I put it in the 4 for the show just because I wasn't going to just put it up as a 2. But yeah, and Toronto, but you got to remember, Philadelphia is a horrible team. Toronto going off at -470 now, so it's gone up. Apparently, no one has faith in the Flyers, but when you get swept in the season series by the Sabres, what do you expect? Martin Jones expected to start between the pipes for the Flyers. He's 10-16-3 with a 351 goals against. And Toronto, they won't have Austin Matthews. He's going to rest again tonight with an undisclosed injury. They want to probably keep him healthy for the playoffs. Jake Muzzin won't play tonight, but you look at recent games for Martin Jones, his last 3 games, he's given up 15 goals on 90 shots. You don't need a calculator to find out that's bad goaltending. It's an .833 save percentage. For those of you keeping track at home, he's 3-6 in his last 10, and the game that he didn't get a decision was because he came in relief in that 9-2 shellacking by Washington last week. So he didn't get a decision, but he still gave up 6 goals on 27 shots. You're right, the numbers, there are some ugly numbers out there, but this time of year there inevitably are. If you look at the NHL as a whole, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 10 games have a favorite at over -200 tonight. And some of the ones where you don't are games where teams are playing the second game of a back-to-back, like Calgary-Nashville, or, Florida's basically right on the cusp, so that would actually be 6.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've got like the Kings and Anaheim or Columbus and the Sharks where, neither team is going anywhere. So not as much of a disparity between bad teams.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Before we move on, speaking of betting, there's some fun stuff going on with our buddies at where else? Of course, Caesars Sportsbook. Caesars Sportsbook is going to give you $1,100 in first bet insurance. Place your first time wager of up to $1,100 and get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose. Okay, so that's a pretty good deal. Again, Caesars Sportsbook, $1,100 first bet insurance. Place your first time wager of up to $1,100 and get it back in the form of a free bet. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do this. That's right. Use a promo code. And our promo code is right there. And it's in the show box below. So by all means, check out our show box below. We greatly would appreciate it. By all means, understand the importance of being 21 years of age, because otherwise you can't participate. And always, always bet responsibly. Okay, so there you go, boys and girls. Great to know. One other quick thing while we got you here. A couple of the quick things. One, we got a special gift for you, and that is a baseball guide that's over 100 pages. Tells you how to bet baseball, and Chris King can vouch for the abilities of the many writers that contributed to it. It's a really good resource, That's also in the show box below. And if you like Chris King, as we all do, and you want his picks for, in your email box every morning, that's also in the show box below. You have to fill out a little form, and the link to that is in the show box. So all kinds of goodies in the show box below. Be sure to check it out. Meanwhile, we're headed to the hardwood for the association and tonight's NBA playoff action.
Right, and we got the Heat and
Starting
the Hawks.
in the Heat.
Yeah, down at the FTX Arena, we saw Miami stifle Trae Young and the Hawks in Game 1. Based on what we saw, I don't really see much of a reason that things are going to change in Game 2. You're putting a lot of pressure on Young to try to carry this team offensively. You look at the injury report here. Bogdanovich is probable. Clint Capella is out with a hyperextended knee. And Lou Williams also out with back discomfort. Apparently that means because John Collins is suddenly not on the injury report, so apparently he's going to try to gut it out. He hasn't played in the last month or so with that finger injury and the foot injury. I know he played in Game 1. He was limited there, but now he's cleared completely. But the question is, he's basically playing because Capella's hurt. Now, if I'm the Heat, I would go at Collins and see what he can do, see how mobile he is. I mean, is he going to play more than 21 minutes? It's going to be interesting. Yeah, the Heat pretty much dominated that game from start to finish the other night. Now, I know that on the injury report you see that Adebayo is listed as questionable with a quad contusion. Markieff Morris has a hip flexor. PJ Tucker has a calf strain. If these guys can, sit out a playoff game because of little injuries like that, Pat Riley will find the quickest way to get them out of town. It's bad enough that Adebayo made a big racket about not being named a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, and his argument was that the Heat don't get as many nationally televised games as the other guys that were on the board. Well, let's look at the other guys on the board. You had Bridges from the Suns. Well, they won the Western Conference. They're going to be on TV. They went to the finals. Marcus Smart plays in Boston. Everybody likes the Celtics. They're going to be on TV. Where his argument kind of ran a little bit out of water was because the third guy was Rudy Gobert of the Jazz. Now, I'm a Utah fan. I've been a Utah fan since back in the day before Adrian Dantley was traded when Karl Malone was still playing at Louisiana Tech and Stockton was still playing at Gonzaga, and everybody liked to talk about Mark Eaton. For all the talk about these teams being on
and
TV.
Hot Rod Hundley was still their voice.
Yeah, there you go. And Frank Layden was their coach, not Jerry Sloan.
Oof.
For all the talk about how these guys get so many national TV games, Miami was featured on national TV 22 times this season. Utah was on 26. That's not a massive differential. Apparently, Adebayo forgot he missed 25 games because he had thumb surgery. He needs to get his head cleared and focused on the Atlanta Hawks, not the fact that he wasn't selected as a finalist for an award that most people don't pay attention to anyway because nobody pays attention to Defensive Player of the Year. As it was, Smart was the first guard since 95, 96, I think, to win it. But you look at it here, I don't have a ton of faith in the Hawks. They put up, 91 points in Game 1.
Yeah.
And that's because they scored 31 in the fourth quarter when the game was already decided. You're trying to rely – Trae Young was 1 for 12 from the floor. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go 1 for 12 again and score 8 points.
Right.
But you're talking about a tough team to beat in Miami. We've talked about it before, Jim, about the depth that the Heat have and that Spoelstra knows who to go to at any given time and get the most out of his players. and get wins.
Justo wants to know about the Heat. Are you in any way concerned about them giving 7.5 points?
No. They're playing at home. Atlanta was 17 and 26 on the road. Now, when you count the play-in game when they beat Cleveland and then losing game 1, Miami plays well at home. Just to take a quick look at splits about this. Let's see. Atlanta on the road has been outscored.
While you're jumping on that, let me jump on Michael here for a second. Michael, is Eric Spoelstra one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA? That would be correct, sir. He didn't get much love when they won championships with LeBron James. And trust me, when you have to manage LeBron James, you not only deserve Coach of the Year, you deserve possible sainthood. It's not an easy thing to do. So, yeah, Michael, you're right. Eric Spoelstra is one of the most underrated coaches. Remember that the guy who is his boss happens to be Pat Riley. So, look how long Spoelstra's been around. He's been around for, I would say, is Eric like the second or third longest tenured coach in the NBA at this point for one team?
I think so.
Everybody's behind Pop.
He's been there since 08-09 as a head coach because he was an assistant before that, going all the way back to 97, 98.
Right. And Pop would be the only one that has more time in the league than he does.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Mm. It would be, because Pop's been there since, Nixon was president, basically.
Since they built they literally, built the Alamo around Pop. So.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, it goes Pop, then Spoelstra, and then you go to the next in line is Steve Kerr, who was hired in May of 2014. And Quentin Snyder was hired in June of 2014.
Well,
to round out the top 5, Michael Malone was been with the Nuggets since June of 2015. Every other team in the league has not had their coach longer than May of 2018.
There you go. Hey, guys, we're going to get to baseball here in a second. I see that Nathan has a quick question. Abraham has a question, and Ninja has a question. Spoelstra is a definite Hall of Famer? Probably. All right, let's go for it.
He's got the record. I mean, he's
got the
660 and 453 in the regular season. He's 86 and 58 in the postseason. He's been to the finals 5 times.
Got 2 championships.
Yep, got 2 rings.
Yeah. And like
I said, he dealt with LeBron for an eternity.
Yeah. So that if nothing else, that would give you gray hair, which he doesn't have. So, all right, let's go for 2 for the money because we got some baseball fans.
Oh, you skipped the second playoff game, though.
Oh, did I? Sorry.
Yeah, we only did Miami.
Let's go back to the videotape. Let's go back and get the late game. My bad. I lost count. The Suns and the Pelicans.
Yeah, we saw this the other day. Kevin Harlan was on the call for that, our good buddy, the Kansas dirt farmer.
Yeah, right.
Chris Paul really took over down the stretch of that ball game and, kept the Pelicans at bay. New Orleans cut a 23-point lead to 6. But, then all of a sudden, every time you went down the floor, you watched Chris Paul basically shoot uncontested threes on like 3 or 4 different possessions. And he blew by a guy for a layup, and he basically made New Orleans look like a bunch of pylons in a shooting drill. No injuries to talk about here, so we're going to see the same guys we saw the other day. Valanciunas was good on the glass for the Pelicans, but he missed a lot of easy baskets inside. And, if Paul is clicking like he was the other day, who do you stop? Who do you guard? Because you can't double team him because then you leave Booker open. You can't double team Booker because it leaves somebody else open. I mean, you have to pick your poison there, and you're looking. You got Ayton, you got Bridges, you got Crowder, who did nothing in that game. But you've got Booker, you got Paul, you got Cam Johnson, McGee can be effective in stretches. I mean, who do you try to challenge to beat you in that rotation if you're Willie Green, Jim?
You, look, there's a reason why Phoenix was the top seed in the West and the best team in basketball. And I don't know where to go. I mean, the Pelicans just don't match up with them. They'll get their participation trophy, and they'll be headed back to New Orleans to have some, some gumbo, maybe after 5 games. But I don't think it's going to be very long. That's for sure.
You look, Valanciunas had 25 rebounds in that game the other day. The Pelicans won the rebounding battle 55-35.
Right.
But Valanciunas, 13 offensive rebounds, but he was 7 of 21 from the floor.
That's not going to help.
No, I mean, and on the other end, DeAndre Ayton was 10 of 15 from the floor. So, I mean, he got beat defensively. He was good on the glass. I'll give him that. 13 offensive rebounds. That's tough to do. But if you're not cashing him in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. And the other part is that, what you said about Chris Paul, if you're not going to guard Chris Paul, you're going to have all kinds of trouble all night long.
Yeah, I mean, he was 12 of 16 from the floor. And, I mean, he wasn't just shooting layups.
He only missed 4 shots all night. Okay.
Yeah, and 2 of those were threes because he was 4 of 6 from beyond the arc.
Michael has probably the single most important question of the day, and that is, how do you feel about the uniforms like the Sun? They have the Valley. Personally, I hate them. But more merchandising. It's true. I don't know if you saw it, but last night, Michael and Chris, gang, but there was Philadelphia Sixers, the 76ers, were wearing a red jersey with white Phila. I mean,
yeah, I did see that.
Who calls it Phila? I mean, if you're going to do it Philly or something like that. I mean, and because it's not like you're going to get it confused with the Phillies, because you just spell it with the Y and you're good to go. I mean, I'd prefer they might as well just put cheesesteaks on there. But Phila, yeah, some of them I don't even get. I mean, the PHX on Phoenix I get because that's the abbreviation for the city. But,
I'm not a fan of a lot of those. I'm not a fan of the Los Suns or the Los Spurs. I mean, I get that they're trying to play to the international market, but they're not called Los Suns. I mean, if you're going to do that, then you'd have to change the whole thing. It would have to be Los Sol or something like that because
right.
Suns is not what sun is in Spanish.
Correct.
So I mean, you're basically just trying to create a mismatch, and it just looks stupid. But that's an opinion for a different day.
Right.
There are some that are cool, but I mean, it's kind of like the City Connect uniforms that they've got in baseball now. Some of those are stupid looking too.
To see the Dodgers in all blue uniforms is a little weird.
Or the I don't know how crazy I am about the Wrigleyville ones that the Cubs have brought out.
Some of them look like softball uniforms.
I mean, why don't we just go back to the Pirates with those stupid-looking hats and stuff like that?
Oh, I kind of liked them back in '79. I thought the Weir family group was kind of fun.
And the White Sox wearing shorts,
That was stupid. No, that was that was the Bill Veeck era when they blew up Comiskey Field almost. That was a crazy time.
Bill Veeck for you.
They had remember those White Sox jerseys had collars on them as well.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Black shorts and black. It was crazy. What about the White Sox? That's right. I just the shorts. I saw them in spring training, and it was kind of weird. And Don Kessinger was their manager, who used to be a fantastic shortstop, along with Glenn Beckert, who played second base for the Cubs. And those guys were a phenomenal double play team.
He probably thought they were dumb too.
Yeah. So he had Santo at third base on that team. So Marlo, I was a fan of the Pirates uniforms back in those days. I thought that was kind of fun. All right. So We got some baseball here. We got some guys who want some baseball questions answered. So let's move on to two for the money. I know we have some baseball popping up and around. So off we go.
Already.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, we talked about the Heat already. I think they should take care of business because Atlanta. I know Trae Young will get some points, but you know that Spoelstra's got a way to game plan for him. The Panthers over the Islanders, the Brewers over the Pirates again, and the Rangers over Winnipeg, much to the chagrin, I'm sure, of Slide. But I know that Slide's probably realized that Winnipeg's struggles early in the year with before Paul Maurice stepped down probably put them in too deep of a hole to try and come out of as far as the playoffs go. And injuries have taken a toll on the Jets as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then playing at Madison Square Garden with Shesterkin is a real challenge for anybody. I don't care who you are. So we'll look for the Rangers to win there. Michael said that the Padres wearing those brown uniforms look like UPS employees. Yeah, I remember the Astros with the rainbow on their uniform back in the mid '80s. We used to call them the bubblegum uniforms when you play on the Nintendo. For those of you kids that don't remember the Nintendo, that's back before, when everybody looked like they were about this big, and if they committed an error, it looked like somebody played whack-a-mole on the guy, and it looked like he was going through electroshock therapy.
Oh, Nathan, buddy, know when you're ahead, my friend. Know when you're ahead.
And Slide, I appreciate that. We were fortunate. Let's face it, Yelich hit that grand slam and kind of blew that game open. But
yeah,
we have no issue saying that we're wrong either, and that's why we appreciate
we're all on you guys. It's all transparency.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys that come out and tell us if you do well or if you don't do well. I mean, that's what it's all about. We're all in the same boat.
That's true. We're not going to hit it 100% of the time.
Yeah, I like the Rangers team total too. If Hellebuyck struggles at all, or if they go with Eric Comrie, the Islanders, if they'll have to play to Florida's kind of tempo in order to try and push the total up because they don't necessarily take a lot of shots on home ice. But it's quite possible you could see a 5-3 type of game there just because of the sheer volume that Florida generates offensively.
Of all the hits the pucks are going to be shooting.
And Nathan, you should never go to the tables after you win money. That's when you go home.
Right. Go to the bar, but don't go to the tables. All right, let's go 4 for the show.
Yeah, this is where I stuck Tampa Bay in because Michael was talking about how ugly the numbers are. And as you see, they are ugly. But that's why you stick it in here where it's in with some other crap, so you don't necessarily notice it as much. I'm going to go with the Dodgers over the Braves again. We talked about how well Los Angeles has played at home. We've talked about Fried's early season struggles. We all know about Bueller. And you could win Ben Stein's money, but that's a different show too. The Suns over the Pelicans. I think we saw the Pelicans put up probably their best fight when they got within 6 before Paul took over in the fourth quarter the other day. Tampa Bay, I'm sorry for Detroit Lenny, but the Red Wings have basically folded up like a cheap tent. Tampa Bay, they've had their issues. And like we talked about last week, Jim, you have to wonder if all these extra games have taken a toll on Vasilevsky and the rest of the Lightning at this point. Because, they played a ton more games than anybody else at this point the last couple seasons with back-to-back cup runs. I mean, how much do they have left at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to do. We already talked about how many extra games you play. Abraham on the Mets and the Giants. We may have that in our big board coming up here, but
it's in there.
Hang in there, buddy. And then the Mariners as well. That's another question, and
I like the Mariners. I like Robbie Ray's pitching today for Seattle. He should bounce back from a tough start in his last outing. John Gray is supposed to come off the IL and throw for Texas. Remember, he suffered that blister on opening day and then went on the shelf. I imagine he's going to be on a pitch count. I can't imagine that, you're going to throw a guy out there and have him throw 95, 100 pitches coming off the shelf, especially, after having a blister issue. You don't want to give him another one and put him back on there.
Right,
And,
get him back real quick.
let's face it, Ray's the reigning AL Cy Young winner for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Mariners will get the win at T-Mobile Park. Still rare what it was called, Safeco Field.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to go to our shot in the dark, which is everything with the kitchen sink in here, folks.
And the menu.
Good opportunity. The menu, right. Mets and the Giants. There you go.
Yeah, I like Tyler McGill over who's going to the game one again? Cobb, right. You could probably stay. I know the total is bounced between 6.5 or 7. I like it better at under 7 than under 6.5, just because it gives you a little more wiggle room. Game 2 is probably going to be another low-scoring game because you've got Scherzer and Logan Webb expected to pitch. Now, I haven't seen the weather in New York City today. Hopefully, it's not as bad as it was yesterday. How's the weather up at the DMV, Jim? Obviously good enough that they could play baseball.
It was raining this morning, and it was overcast. It's very sunny at the moment, so my guess is they'll be fine. I can check the weather while you go down the list here.
All right. I'm going to go with the A's over the Orioles. We saw that yesterday. Oakland won 5-1. And again, if you're chasing the under in games, you might not need to go any further than Oakland and Baltimore. We talked about that yesterday. The Orioles this season now have improved, if you want to call it that. I believe the under for them is 9-0-1 in their 10 games. And the one push was against Tampa Bay in a game when they didn't even score. That was a game they lost 8-0 at the Trop in the opening weekend of the season. Let me just double check to make sure I'm giving you the accurate number there. Yeah, 0-9-1 as far as the over. So the under is 9-0-1 in Baltimore's 10 games on the year. Oakland has stayed under in 6 out of 10. Baltimore hasn't really announced who they're going to start yet, so that's always entertaining. Nothing like old TBD is your starting pitcher, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Oakland doesn't score a ton of runs either. Cole Irvin going for the A's, by the way. Total set at 8 for that one. We saw 6 yesterday. I don't know if we'll see a whole lot more than that in this one. Just to give you an idea of Baltimore's totals this year in their games: 3, 8, 8, 2, 9, 6, 3, 7, 5, 6. So offense in Baltimore, I think they have an allergy. So don't expect a ton there. I'm going to go with Boston over Toronto. Eovaldi over UC Kikuchi pitching for Toronto in that one. The Phillies over the Rockies. I expected the Phillies to actually put up some runs yesterday. They didn't. They lost 4-1. Hopefully they bounce back tonight. Kyle Gibson going against Kyle Freeland.
The battle of the Kyles.
Yeah, basically. I'm going to look for the Hawks and Heat to stay under 219. We saw, 216 the other day. Minnesota and Memphis over 241. We saw, 247 the other day. And Minnesota tends to play high-scoring games on the road. They play lower-scoring games at home. Don't ask me to explain it. I credit David Behrman from ESPN for pulling up that trend before going into the All-Star break. They had averaged 250-something on the road in a 12-game stretch, and it was down to 212 in their previous 12 games at home. So going on the road, just take a look at what Minnesota did in the regular season as far as road games. The Timberwolves averaged 118.4 on the road and gave up 118.2. That's a lot of points, especially in today's NBA. I mean, those are basically 80s-style offensive numbers. Meanwhile, Memphis at home averaged 117.3. So you're looking for some big offensive numbers in that one. I'm going to look for New Orleans and Phoenix to stay under 221.5. If you look at recent matchups between those teams, we've seen a lot of low-scoring games. New Orleans comes in with 3 straight unders, 7 unders in their last 10. The Suns have recorded 6 straight unders and 8 of their last 9 coming into that contest. Just look for a lot of defense here.
I was just going to say, I was looking at the weather, and the weather in New York is 50 degrees. It's windy, but there's not any precipitation anywhere close. So it'll be, it's not going to be pleasant it's going to be kind of chilly and windy outside. But other than that, it'll be fine for the Mets and the Giants game. Basically, that's the kind of weather that San Francisco's used to. So they should be in good shape about that.
What's the line on the first half for Memphis, Nathan? I haven't looked since this morning. So if it's under, 4 or 5, you should be fine. I don't know if they're going to run them out of the building or not, but I think that they should be ahead at the half. They're going to learn from their mistakes. Yeah, exactly. They don't want to go down 0-2 and head to the Target Center. I look for Morant to have a big game for Memphis today.
We thought the Bandits would get over the Panthers. I'm sorry, Panthers. I'm going to the University of Pittsburgh. The Maulers yesterday, Andrew, and they did a good job. They played well. They scored all their 17 points in the first half. But
so you didn't miss anything by not watching the second half.
Yeah, they basically played heavy defense the whole way through, and there you go. That was good. He likes the picks. Don't know much about the NHL. Maybe it looks good. We're trying here, buddy. And the next one on the board here. Let's throw some more up.
Just to hit the last ones on the shot in the dark, I'm going with the Kings over the Ducks. The Kings need that win if they want to maintain their playoff position. Anaheim's got nothing going for them. Mm-hmm. Much to the chagrin of Ryan, I'm going with Columbus over San Jose, even though the game's in San Jose, because the Sharks have lost 10 in a row. So kind of hard to have faith in them. And I'm going to go with the Flames over the Preds. Dan Vladar starting against UC Saros. I could have also thrown the Blues in there over Boston. The Blues 9-0-1 in their last 10.
Washington Nationals pitchers, I believe he's a fade till he gets DFA. Okay.
So apparently Marlowe not a fan of Adon. The line is 4 for the first half. Nathan, I think you should be good there. It's come down from 4.5 at some books. So,
the Nationals are in the bottom of the 6th inning, beating the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-1, and Josiah Gray.
Thanks to an error in the 5th that allowed him to score twice.
Josiah Gray went through 5 innings, gave up 1 run. So there's that. So there you go. Right up to date on the scoreboard here. On that, what was it that Nathan says I guess.
No, we were talking about the first half line for Memphis. It's Memphis -4.
Okay, cool. I don't see any more questions. Anything else out there, guys? Before we hit the road here. Remember that you got the Max Wagers Network, which starts off at noon with Midday Money. Sean Higgs, one of our buddies. Allie Burns, who showed up yesterday and spent some time with us. She comes on at 1 o'clock with Morning Wood. That's Chris and I at 2. Then there's Scott and Scott from 3 to 4. Then from 5 to 6, we've got Lenny, Tim, and Nick, who get you ready for all the night's action. So all kinds of fun stuff going on. Keep it here at the Max Wagers Network. And starting next week at 4 o'clock, we're going to have our soccer guru, Mr. Sean Miller. And Sean's been on the show before. Very entertaining fellow, very knowledgeable. Just came back from Europe where he has been covering the championships. The Champions League. So all kinds of good stuff with that. So hang with us on the Max Wagers Network. Be sure to check us out on our YouTube, and be sure to hit that button, like I said, right there, and make sure that you ring the bell and make sure that we got all the notifications. So give us that like and all that kind of stuff, because it's very helpful to all of us and to you as well. And also follow us on Facebook too. Okay. All right, gang. Look, it's been a lot of fun. Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Tuesday?
A lot of good games out there to watch. Of course, with a couple double headers added to the baseball schedule today.
Mm-hmm.
And watch out for Shane Bieber pitching for the Guardians against the White Sox. Apparently, Dallas Keuchel getting the start instead of Jimmy Lambert. But I went with the Guardians in that one. Provided that game doesn't get rained out too, because God knows we've seen enough of those already.
That's true. That's true. All right, buddy. Everybody have a great day. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot. See you at 2 o'clock right here on the Max Wagers Network. Take care, everybody.